Hey guys, it's TechGrand here. In today's video, we'll be reviewing the MayorBox capture card. That is right. If you guys did not know, I recently got this capture card off Amazon because you can find it there for $40. Sometimes being $35 and some other stuff, but for the sake, it's just $40. And if you guys did not know, this is a 4K capture card that has passed through, but also supports a 1080p 60 signal. So if it's as good as it's leading to be, it might actually be way better than the actual Elgato capture card. And I saw a few people do review videos on this themselves, and honestly, I want to review here today because I'm very curious to figure this on out. So the first we're gonna do is do an unboxing. Then we're gonna do a comparison, comparing to multiple capture cards from this capture card, USB 3 capture card, a Walmart capture card, and so much more. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with the unboxing first. First of all, if you get this off Amazon, you get this nice little small packaging. There really isn't much about it. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I will say, surprisingly, even though it's a cheap package, it looks and feels kind of actually somewhat nice, and I'm honestly kind of surprised about that. First of all, you will get a USB 3 cable that will come with this, so it's both heads. There's no USB-C, which I'm actually kind of surprised about. It would have been better if it's USB-C, but that's beside the point though. Next of all, we got the capture card itself, and actually comes in a little electric wrap, so that way there's no static discharge from it, so that's pretty cool. And of course, you got to open the end of it by just tearing this off. Then once you tear that out, you can then pull out your little capture card, but you actually got an aluminum housing on it. You can hear it just by this. Pretty tanky in itself. You will have a USB 3 spot, so this is of course for that USB 3 cable that you're going to plug this into your computer, and then it should be as plug and play as in OBS as the other capture cards I've reviewed in the past. It doesn't have any software. Then you got the HDMI in for the capture card, and then an HDMI out as well. So you can use the HDMI out to go to your monitor, and then the HDMI in to actually go into from your console to your capture card to capture on your PC. There you maybe have a webcam, you use this as a webcam thing too. And there's also an LED indicator light that looks like, I presume, if it's working, it'll send an indicator light. That's at least my assumption, at least. And the same thing for this one, has one for data too. So that's kind of a small thing that's pretty nice, and I would just make the assumption that if it's green, it works, and if it's red, it's probably not getting a signal from it. But I'm honestly kind of surprised, like, how clean this is. Like, yeah, I don't know, it's just one of those weird things. But that's besides that, you don't get anything else in the box, because I know some people might be curious about that, but those are the only things you get with it. So what we're gonna do is now is teach you guys on how to set it up. So the first thing you're gonna do is take your USB cable and plug it into a USB header on your computer. For me, I'm actually gonna plug it on the USB 3 HUD I have, but of course you can do it on your front panel, and of course there's some USB 3 pins there. And of course you want to take the other side of this now and plug this into the back side of the capture card where the USB bit is. With that, your actual capture card is now set up for actually catching. Now what we need to do is get an input device. So for example here, this is going to my side camera. I'm going to plug this on into the HDMI in of the capture card, and this is kind of the same rule applied for your console. If you have a console, you want to take the HDMI out from it and plug it into the HDMI in, and then run an HDMI out cable to your monitor so that way you can game on it. Okay, if you want to add this video capture device, all you have to do is go to the add button in your sources, go to video capture device, and then add it in your OBS. Now keep in mind that once you add this, it has its own separate audio source, so just make sure to mute it if you have a camera connected, because then you have a looping sound effect, which you can see in just a second here. So that's a loop. Now keep in mind, when you actually do add this, it's going to be called USB video device, because it's going to be like listed under here, and when you collect it, it's going to work like that. So just something to keep in mind, okay? So right now, it is on my Canon 4K 30 FPS camera, and I already enabled the 4K on it. You could probably tell just alone from like this. This is pretty insane. Like the original version of me recording this bit was like messed up because of the looping effect, but you cannot tell me this looks insanely good. Like there's a bit of delay, but it isn't like anything noticeable. It's only noticeable while gaming, and I'll explain that in just a bit here though. But this is pretty cool. It was the 4K pass-through. So if you want to see what 1080 is, I'll show you what 1080 is. So you can see right now I have the 4K settings on my actual little thing enabled, and you can actually see right here it says 4K, but my phone is not focusing, which now you can see that's 4K. We're catching up the setup. So now if we actually switch it from 4K to actually 1080p, it'll actually just work. So you can do like high 1080p, then you can close it and stuff like that, and it just works. That's pretty good for a $40 capture card. I would honestly just say alone, like this is almost enough proof to say buy this over an Elgato capture card. So what I can do now is get into testing with it some games and see how bad the latency is, if it's as bad as the Walmart capture card, or will there actually be no response like the Elgato capture card. That'll be the question we're gonna find out next. Okay, so we're now in Apex Legends, because Apex Legends is a very intensive game, and this is only 1080p 60, but you can tell the gameplay from this capture card is actually really good. Now, keep in mind, I am using some new recording settings, which these recording settings are slightly different compared to my usual I test with, but honestly, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. Like, I would honestly say this capture card just barely underperforms the Elgato just from looks alone. Like, you cannot tell me, like, yo, this capture card is actually doing a good job for $40. I'm quite surprised. My only kind of annoyance is that it doesn't have zero response time, meaning that like you can't like game off. It's like, yeah, it's good. It's probably way better than all the other USB capture cards I've reviewed recently, but it still has a bit of delay where it feels like not very fluid that I could play off this in OBS. Now, would I recommend doing that? Absolutely not. Never. For retro games, you could definitely, because they're not really high in demand. But for like FPS shooters like Apex and stuff like that, you can definitely tell like it's definitely going to be kind of like not the best thing in the world. It looks clean, don't get me wrong, but besides that though, I would not recommend doing this. Then of course what you want to make sure you do when you do set this up is go from a USB to the PC to a HDMI in for your whatever your device can capture, camera, gameplay, whatever you want, and then have an HDMI out. So like for your HDMI out for your console, I would definitely recommend it for your PC, because like, yeah, if I set this up right now, it'll be way better. But like, yo, if you're deciding to get this or the Elgato capture card, I'm not gonna lie, it's looking pretty blatantly obvious. But let's just do a final test. We'll compare 4 different capture cards. We'll compare the Walmart $15, I think it's a Walmart $20 capture card. We'll compare the $30 USB 3 capture card, and we'll finally compare the USB or Mirebox $40 capture card, then finally the Elgato capture card. And you can decide for yourself, do you want to buy the $20, $30, $40, or I think it's like 160 something for the Elgato. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. First, we got the Vivitar capture card, which you can get this at Walmart for $20, which looks very good. However, it has a lot of screen tearing, which you can tell by the weapons alone. Next, we got ourselves the USB 3 capture card, which is a bit oversaturated, but has none of that screen tearing. However, it does have a lot of input latency. Next, here is the Mirebox capture card, which you can tell just alone from this, it looks pretty good. I did notice some lagging from it, which is a bit annoying. It doesn't look bad at all, like no oversaturation compared to the USB 3 capture card, and no screen tearing at all, which is really, really nice. However, though, there was some weird little lag dips here and there when you're moving around with your weapons, so I'm not entirely sure why that's the case though, but it's still not bad though, nonetheless. And then finally here is the Elgato HE60S capture card, which you can just tell is zero input latency. It looks very good, no lagging, no choppiness compared to any other capture cards. But honestly, yo, the Mirebox was pretty good. That is, of course, the Mirebox $40 capture card. Of course, my final thoughts on this capture card is if you have $40 laying around, honestly, I would buy this over an Elgato capture card just because, well, you got HDMI in, you got HDMI out, USB 3, and it works really, really well. Now, does it work as well as an Elgato capture card for latency? No, but it makes up without having the HDMI out, so you can just play this on your monitor anyways. So yeah, now there was a little bit of bugging with the actual like guns and stuff like that, but it wasn't like very noticeable. You have to really work with a lot of capture cards to be able to tell. So honestly, $4 is a really good deal, and if you don't have $40, then I would just recommend getting the USB 3 capture card. Now, of course, I will have all the capture cards I reviewed here today in the description down below if you are interested in grabbing any one of them. Feel free to, and of course, if you do use those links, it will support me, so very much appreciated. But if you guys enjoyed my video here today, though, make sure to smash the like button and get subscribed so you don't miss out on future tech content. And I'll see you guys around for that tech video. Tech Grant out.